Jonathan, good morning to you. Good morning. All right, so at the age of 17, you were pushed into the spotlight on Britain's Possesses Talent. When you discovered you had that voice, how old do you believe you were? A 17-year-old boy startled the world in 2012. Britain's Got Talent universe. The charm was in Jonathan Antoine's voice. However, he kept a secret for 28 years. That was the source of his fame. The harassment began when he was only 4 years old. Children flung snacks at him. Teachers discovered him sobbing by himself. The diagnosis that altered everything then came. What became of Jonathan wasn't solely about shyness or weight, something more profound, something that outlined the reasons behind his lifelong sense of change. His eventual revelation of the truth will shatter your heart. Jonathan, on January 13, 1995, Antoine was born in Chigwell, Essex. Externally, it appeared to be a peaceful, affluent area to grow up. However, within his reality, everything were distinct. Jonathan displayed unusual musical ability from a young age. He had perfect pitch by 6 o'clock. Something that only around one person out of every 10,000 has. Although his talent was unique, no one listened intently. Rather, Jonathan was so severely tormented during his school days that professors frequently discovered him sobbing by himself. He used to relax by humming lengthy tunes. He would silently write whole songs in his mind during the worst times, according to his mother Julie. Even by the age of 8, his brain was doing something extraordinary, even though he was exhibiting symptoms of depression. After hearing an opera once, he could recall every detail. Later, doctors would say that he had a type of musical savant syndrome, which occurs in less than 1 person out of 1,000. Even earlier, he struggled with weight. When he was only 4 years old, eating was his sole source of solace. At 5, he was already 40 pounds beyond his proper weight. He weighed 95 pounds at age 6. More than twice the typical amount for his age. During lunch, children called him derogatory names and tossed food at him. Additionally, the more people made fun of him, the more he resorted to eating as a coping mechanism. When 10 years old, Jonathan was 154 pounds. His mom did everything she could. She even took out a mortgage twice in order to pay for therapy, but nothing seemed to help. He would subsequently be diagnosed by specialists with trauma-induced hyperphagia, a disorder that affects only 2% of people, children who have been bullied, and causes excessive weight gain. The instant his voice was found when nobody was looking for it, he was a substitute at the age of 10. Mrs. Williams, the music teacher, was conducting a routine choir audition. Jonathan made an effort to blend in with the other children, but as soon as he opened his mouth, everyone heard an unreal sound. His voice was powerful, and an adult tenor's tone. Later, according to Mrs. Williams, it sounded like the body of a child contains a pop. An examination of that initial recording revealed because most kids can't handle the frequency range that Jonathan's voice could reach. Even more surprisingly, he possessed a natural vibro, which often takes 20 years for singers, years to acquire knowledge. In a few weeks, he was performing adult-oriented solos. A microphone wasn't necessary for him. At 95 decibels, his voice was loud enough to fill a hall with 2,000 seats. Later, it was regarded as one of the most significant advancements in the teaching of music in Britain. Jonathan joined the Stratford at the age of 15, as well as the East London Music Festival. He stood just over 5 feet tall and weighed 298 pounds. 47 other vocalists, many of whom were professional, competed against him, spent years training. Victoria Sterling, a 17-year-old who was his fiercest opponent, had performed in the Royal Opera House before. Nessun Dorma was the song Jonathan decided to sing. By the time he was done, around 2,000 individuals had crammed into an area intended for 1,200. He received a standing ovation from the audience that lasted for minutes. Sir David Wilcox, one of the judges, awarded him a score of 98 out of 100, highest in the history of the festival. In addition to a prize of $2,500, he received an offer to record. Furthermore, he experienced for the first time what it was good to be applauded rather than made fun of. He was accepted in the same year, entering the junior program at the Royal Academy of Music. It was an uncommon occasion. From out of over 2,800 applicants, only 23 were selected. Jonathan's tryout nerves had caused him to throw up twice before, but it was almost perfect. His voice sounded like it belonged to a 25-year-old who had received training, according to his academy teacher, normally costing more than £8,000 annually. The institution waived the fee following his mother demonstrated how difficult their financial situation was. Weekends for Jonathan became crowded with instruction. 4 hours of theory, 2 hours of singing technique, and 6 hours of coaching for performance. Because of his appearance, the other students first disregarded him, but after 3 months, he became the youngest person to ever play the lead part in the Academy's casting of The Magic Flute. Lengthy past. Everything started to shift in 2011 when Jenny Ewington, Jonathan's high school music instructor, took a risk. Jonathan, who was 17 years old and still weighed more than 20 stone, was paired with a Charlotte Giaconelli, is 16 years old. Charlotte was confident in Jonathan. She enjoyed being in the spotlight and had been acting since she was 8 years old. Jenny wasn't speculating. She chose Charlotte because she was confident that her commanding stage presence would counterbalance Jonathan's strong but timid voice. The prayer they sang in front of the audience was their first duet. Only 15 pupils. However, Jenny knew she had discovered something even in that tiny space. Unique. Charlotte and Jonathan couldn't have been more different. He worked on his opera several hours every day, but stayed away from others. She has appeared in more than 30 musicals by age 16 and thoroughly enjoyed performing on stage. However, when they joined in song, there was a rare blend to their voices. Jonathan's high-pitched voice came to between C3 and C5. C4 to C6 was the change in Charlotte's soprano voice. A producer of music who it was described as the type of vocal coupling that only occurs once every generation by those who heard their early recordings. However, behind things weren't always easy in the scenes. Jonathan needed to be pushed by Charlotte continuously. Before rehearsals, he would occasionally have panic attacks and hide in the school restroom. She would locate him, soothe him, and return him to the music space. They began playing at local gatherings to gain confidence. In between, they performed in 23 locations, including churches and elderly homes. Between February and April of 2012, pubs, even weddings, an Easter service at a nearby church was their first paid position. Church, where they each received £50. Next, there was a significant event at the Epping Forest. They performed for 200 people at a charity dinner at the country club. After a 5-minute standing ovation, talent scouts came right away. Then they were performing for £300 by April, and 40 additional venues were on a waiting list to reserve them. They now had 15 songs on their list, but every performance had prayer at its core. These brief performances were beneficial. Jonathan got ready for the next move. Charlotte was the one who insisted that they try out for Britain's Got Talent ability. In March 2012, she learned about the auditions, but Jonathan first declined. He didn't want to appear on national television and have his appearance ridiculed. Charlotte didn't give up. She asked for 3 weeks. She even declared that she would try out by herself if he disagreed. 13 minutes before the due date, she turned in their application. Her bedroom was used to record the video. Jonathan hardly appeared on the screen and appeared frightened. The producers were solely interested in Charlotte when they contacted, but she stated that it was either both or neither. The London Palladium planned to host the audition on April 28. Charlotte stayed at the hotel because Jonathan had never even used public transportation by himself. To ensure he wouldn't back out, he spent the night before at his place. As soon as Antoine entered the stage, he was unaware that his life would alter when he competed in Britain's Got Talent in 2012. Forever, he was just 17. He had untidy hair, a basic t-shirt, and didn't resemble the entertainers, who typically won over the judges. Millions would be stunned by what transpired next. Simon Cowell turned to Carmen, another judge, before Jonathan even sang a note, Electra, and said something nasty. Just when you thought it couldn't, he said, become worse. The remark was captured on tape. It was cruel. Additionally, it was only by looking at Jonathan. Jonathan, however, anticipated it. Later, he stated, I simply went out there wearing my regular clothing, so I don't appear like a typical performer. That moment turned into one of the BGT's most memorable pre-performance snippets. The song, The Prayer followed. Andrea made the strong duet, famous Celine Dion and Belly. It was not Jonathan's choice. His instructor of music, he and his singing companion, Charlotte Giaconelli, were invited by Jeanette Brown to sing it at her wedding. Immediately after, the whole atmosphere shifted when Jonathan started to sing. The audience, in a matter of seconds, they were standing. People were in tears. Simon Cowell's mouth fell open. Each of the 4 judges said yes. It was more than